Listen, you guys need to watch FateZero. If you haven't already, you need to watch FateZero. Stop what you're doing. Even if it's breathing, you have to stop. You sit your ass down in front of a computer and you watch FateZero. I watched it English dub. It changed my appreciation for the art form of anime. It is not just one of my favorite animes, and I saw it, I just finished it yesterday. Not just one of my favorite animes, but one of my favorite shows, period. A very common question is, do I need to watch FateZero to understand Fate Stay Night, a limited blade works, which is what I'm starting to review right now. The question is, I don't think so. I mean, chronologically speaking, FateZero comes first. And when I watched episode 0 of Fate Stay Night, a limited blade works, I felt like there was so much more that I was missing, so I didn't feel comfortable just reviewing this series without watching FateZero. So in order to get some background, I went and watched the entire thing. The problem is, I think, is that if you watch FateZero, it's probably going to spoil some stuff from Fate Stay Night, because Fate Stay Night came before FateZero. Like, chronologically, it happens after, but it was released before. So it's kind of like watching the original trilogy of Star Wars, that being Fate Stay Night, and then going back to watch the prequels. If you watch the Star Wars prequels first, I mean, you're already going to know that Darth Vader is Luke's dad. But the reason I decided to watch FateZero first is because I knew that people were going to spoil stuff anyway, because I'm on the internet. That being said, like, FateZero just gives you so much insight watching Fate Stay Night now, and it's like even the places, like, you recognize them, and you recognize some of the characters from FateZero, so it's kind of like, oh, I know that guy, or I know that place. But even if you don't watch Fate Stay Night, if you decide not to follow it, you need to watch FateZero. It's that good. It is a jewel in the anime archives. I feel like this show is going to explain stuff better, I think probably in the next episode that we get, because episode 0 and episode 1, it covers basically the same time. It's just told from a different perspective. Episode 0 is from Rin's perspective, and episode 1 is from Shiro's perspective. Just to get it out of the way, because this is something that I would have appreciated somebody telling me, I'm just going to lay out the concept of the entire show. Basically, there's this thing called the Holy Grail, which is, if you don't know, it's the cup that Jesus drank from, okay? And every couple of years, the Holy Grail chooses 7 people. These people are called masters / mages. Some of them, in fact, most of them are pretty skilled in magic. Not all of them, but, you know, others are complete noobs, as we saw in this episode, like Shiro, right? And each of these 7 masters gets to summon a servant into the real world. And these 7 servants are people that are famous throughout history, okay? So they usually have their own legends to their name. However, part of the game is that you don't reveal your identity, because then that can sort of, like, if you tell other people what your name is, that kind of reveals what your weapons are and what you can do. So that's, you know, and the more information you have in the game, the stronger you are, because you can formulate a strategy. And the game is not really a game. It's actually like a war to get the Holy Grail. The winner of the tournament, and by the way, there is killing involved. Whoever wins the tournament gets the Holy Grail, and the Holy Grail grants that winner one wish. So there are 7 pairs, or 7 groups of 2, you know, a master and a servant, and they're competing in the tournament. Now, each servant has a classification. There are 7 classifications, and those are Saber, Archer, Lancer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Berserker. Saber is my favorite character. She is amazing, and it sucks that I need to call her Saber. I can't really call her by her real name, because that's a spoiler. The action was incredible. Both of them were blitzing the shit out of each other. Did you see the ground fucking go up? Saber is everything that's awesome, and the production value for this anime is on some cinematic level. Like, you can go to the movies to watch a 2D animation film, and odds are it's not going to be as good as this. Visually, there's nothing that's going to surpass this anime this year. I can guarantee it. In fact, I saw Chibi's reaction to episode 0. He was running around his room like a road runner, and I'm like, what is going on? So I checked out FateZero, and I didn't understand the hype at first, but now that I watch FateZero and I see this, it's like, oh. Yeah, so Lancer gives himself away in this episode because he uses his Noble Phantasm, and his Noble Phantasm is just another fancy way of saying his special hidden technique. Saber identified him as the Irish Child of Light, and if you do a quick Google search, and you put on like, well, Irish, Child of Light, you'll find out who that historic figure is or who that figure of legend is. And I know Saber got hit and injured during the fight, but let me tell you, if she had used her special technique, oh no. Her noble phantasm is a broken piece of shit. It's like, I love her, but it's a broken piece of shit. It's incredible. It's just, no. Aside from the fight, I think the most important part of this episode is that, well, there are some characters and they'll get development later on, I assume. Some of them, if you watch FateZero, you kind of already know their backstories and their backgrounds a little bit. What's important here is Shiro's mentality. This boy was saved by a man because there was destruction and fire and rubble everywhere, and I can't say anything else. And this man's name, the man who saved the boy, was called Kiritsugu. Because of that experience, Shiro's mentality is that he wants to save everybody, or he wants to help people, but it's kind of like he leans towards the extreme. It's like he never turns anybody down. It's like he has a very giving, compassionate nature. And this mentality is challenged by Kiritsugu in the flashback when he tells him that saving one person is being unable to save another. Consequently, because he can't save everybody. That's not how human nature works. The boy remains stubborn, and FateZero adds just an enormous amount of insight into this conversation. But, the boy's like, I don't believe in a salvation that is inherently limited to a set number of people. This is one of the things that I love about the concept of the show, is that each of these individuals, both the servants and their masters, are flawed individuals. They have their own ideologies, they have their own motives for participating in the war, even if the motive is, I don't fucking have a motive. Like, Shiro didn't even have to perform the ritual to summon his servant. He was chosen, okay? Rin, on the other hand, like, she did the whole thing and she timed it wrong because, the clocks were an hour fast or something. And she wanted to get Saber, as we learned in the previous episode, but she got Archer. And her motive is like, well, I just fight because there's a fight to be won. Aside from the animation, aside from the beautiful graphics, that's what makes the story rich. It's that, like, each individual has their own way of viewing the war and their role in it. We've just barely met 2 of the masters and 3 of the servants, so there's still more characters that we need to be acquainted with. That being said, I think it's a very strong start. Both episode 1 and 0 are over 40 minutes long. I think that's going to change with episode 3, like the usual is around 23, 25 minutes. But that should give you an idea of the amount of budget that the studio allocates for this show and the amount of effort and work that goes into making these things. The fights look like something straight out of a Hollywood budget movie. Your standards for animation are pretty much almost automatically increased after you watch this show. You have to join the hype, okay? It is too good not to. To the point where I even felt bad. I felt like a fucking moron being like, oh shit, like, FateZero, what's this? I felt bad that nobody had actually recommended this series to me because it's like, it's so good. I felt like I'd been missing out all this time and I didn't even know that I was missing out on this jewel. So thank you for watching. FateZero is 25 episodes total. You can watch it dubbed. I actually watched FateZero in English just because I wanted my entire attention to be concentrating on what was going on the screen. And sometimes when you read subtitles, you're like, what? Like the review if you did, comment down below sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to my channel for more Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works reviews. The opening and ending were really cool. The ending's music, I think I'm gonna have to get used to that. But the opening is good regardless of whether or not you like the music because they tease the shit out of the fights. There's a dude that looks like a samurai. What class is he? Oh, and this is a very brief reference. There are characters in the opening that, were in FateZero. And there's this one character in particular that every time I see, I just start laughing because he's such a cocky asshole. I have a lot of questions, but the girl with the shiny clear hair, is that who I think she is? Like the girl that told Shiro to like hurry the fuck up and summon his servant? It's not Epic, it's like Epic came out of this show.